to everyone, and welcome to Live in Peace Community Connect, a platform that is powered by Reclaiming Our Youth Services, where community conversations definitely will change lives. I'm your host, Michelle A. Green, CEO and founder of Reclaiming Our Youth Services, as well as the South Carolina State Lead for Voices of Black Mothers United. Now, Voices of Black Mothers United is a project of the Woodson Center out of Washington, D.C. We are bringing you real voices, real stories, and real solutions for safer, stronger communities. I ask you to please share this live and join us in building a strong, healthy community. Please also stay with us until the end because for those of you who have pre registered for this, we will be doing a giveaway. Now, originally, I just want to share with you what our original thought was. Originally, we felt that going into specific communities and having what we call community connects in several communities around the state, that would be our way of reaching our youth and their families. But after some careful deliberation and prayer, our organization decided to try a virtual platform. As you all know, everything now is virtual. You can be anywhere at any time and still get this information. So, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a series of Community Connects live. This way, the information is always there in cyberspace. We have a YouTube channel now, Reclaiming Our Youth Services, so it will be there as well as on Facebook and Instagram. So I ask you to take a minute before we get to our speaker and share this live and tag as many people as you know because we're trying to get the word out that there is a way that we can save our youth, that we can build strong families in our community. I am honored today, so honored. This young man, Mr. Wendell Manigault, I met him probably about a year and a half ago. A friend told me that he is a wonderful speaker, that he would be a wonderful speaker for my youth groups. And I met him. I was at an event that was held in Hollywood, South Carolina. And I heard him speak, and I said, this is the young person that I wanted to start this live with. You know, his topic tonight is going to be life after the trigger. And so many instances in our community where our young people are shooting each other, it's murder, they die. But Wendell lived. But then he is going to share with us tonight what got him to this point and how it is to live after being shot. I've heard his story a couple times and it is truly amazing. This young man has really been through a lot. But what is life like after the trigger? So many, including my two sons who were both murdered, did not live to be able to tell their story. But God saw fit to allow Wendell to live. And his testimony is touching so many lives. So please share this live, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Wendell, I just want to welcome you. I want how can I hear you? How are you doing?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm
All
blessed. And you?
right. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. And I would love to thank your mom as well. Wendell's mom is always there. Times when he has come to my events, she is always there to assist him. As you can see that hey mom, the the bullet that went into his body has caused major damage to him. But he is truly faithful. He is in this journey with me. And to start my lives, because we are going to have several of these, but I called him and I told him what I wanted to do. And he said, Miss Green, I'm in it with you. So I just give God thanks for him being here. And again, before he gets started, I want you to please share this live, like it. Um, and we're going ahead and get started. Now, Wendell is going to share his entire testimony. We talked about it earlier, and for you to truly get the impact of what has happened to him, you need to hear his story and what led him to this point in his life. So let's give Wendell some time to share his story. If you have some questions, I have someone who's assisting me with questions or comments in the chat. So we'll hopefully be able to address those as well. Also, I would like to say that for those people who did register on the website, we did receive your questions and we will try to interject answers throughout this conversation tonight. So again, I would like to say thank all of you for coming, and I would like to present to you Mr. Wendell Manigault.
All right. How y'all doing? First, I want to give honor to God, who's the head of my life. Then, I want to thank Miss Michelle Green for presenting me with this opportunity to stand before you all that's under the sound of my voice. But, like it was said, my name is Wendell Manigault. I'm 39 years of age. I'm from the city of North Charleston, South Carolina, and I'm a member of Lovely Mountain Baptist Church, where Pastor Curtis J. Dason is our presiding pastor. What I'm about to do is share with you all my testimony about life before my injury and life after my injury. I'll also speak about how I got injured in full detail because I wasn't always in this condition that you currently see me in. So if you don't mind, I kindly ask that you continue to give me your undivided attention as I delve into my testimony. Coming up as a child, my siblings and I were brought up with both parents under the same roof. And in our household, my parents always taught my siblings and I right from wrong. They taught us to respect others no matter who they are, because respect can take you places where money won't. My parents also taught my siblings and I to stay in school, get an education, and make something out of ourselves. In fact, they'd always instill in us that we could be whatever we want to be in life as long as we put God first and work towards our goals. As I think back, I can remember my mother driving my siblings and I to different communities of North Charleston and downtown Charleston, showing us drug addicts, drug dealers, prostitutes, alcoholics, and the homeless, explaining to us that that is how our lives could have turned out if we didn't take heed to the wisdom and knowledge that was given to us. In addition to that, my mother also brought my siblings and I up in church, attending every service you could imagine. But as time progressed, I began to go astray from those teachings by receiving in school suspensions, out school suspensions, detentions, as well as expulsions. And as I got older, I began to venture off into a much more destructive lifestyle, such as running the streets and dealing drugs, preferably crack cocaine. Instead of lying in bed preparing myself for school the following day, I was outside during the wee hours of the morning selling drugs to whomever purchased it, attending block parties and club events, smoking marijuana, drinking alcohol beverages. And in the process of all that, I was stressing my parents out not realizing it. During my time in the streets, I got arrested and locked up twice. I also got myself acquainted with a group of people whom I considered to be friends. And out of the group of people whom I chose to associate myself with, there's this one person in particular whom I later found out wasn't and still isn't a friend of mine. In fact, he's the person that has me in this predicament that I'm in now, in which I'll explain. One evening, as I was sitting on this trunk that was placed at the foot of my bed trying to make a phone call, I looked back and saw my partner who was sitting behind me at the head of the bed, with his gun in hand aimed at the floor, gazing at it. The moment I saw that, I immediately told him at least 2 or 3 times. I said, "Hey, bro, put the pistol up in the house. Quit playing with the pistol." But he looked at me and never said anything. Being that this was a friend of mine, I thought nothing of it and proceeded to make the call that I was trying to make. In the process of proceeding with that call, my hand began to hurt and my body temperature began to increase. So I stood up from where I was sitting, took the hoodie that I had on off, then proceeded to turn and toss it on one of the nearby beds that was placed to the left of me. In the process of making that turn, all I saw was a flash come from the barrel of the gun. And by that time, I had been hit. The moment I got shot, it felt like I blacked out for at least 10 to 15 seconds, if not longer. As I began to regain consciousness, however, I noticed that I was lying on the floor with my head propped up on the frame of the door. And as I began to observe my surroundings, I noticed that there was a firearm placed by my feet and another firearm placed on one of the nearby beds that was to the right of me. The more I observed my surroundings, I noticed that the gentleman who shot me was standing over me with this gun in hand saying repeatedly that he didn't mean to do it. Within moments of that observation, the gentleman who shot me then went into the living area where my elder sibling was. And being that the living area is no more than 5 steps away from where I lied, I overheard him repeating the same thing to her, saying, "Bruh, bruh, I shoot low bruh. I sorry, I shoot low bruh." Being that my elder sibling was on the phone, she heard him, but she really didn't pay him any attention. In fact, she said, "What? Boy, quit playing." In response to my elder sibling's reaction, the gentleman said, "No, for real. I shoot low bruh. You laying on the floor." Once the gentleman got my elder sibling's attention, my elder sibling got up to see what was going on, and there she saw me lying on the floor with my head propped up on the frame of the door. As soon as my elder sibling came to where I was, she immediately dropped down to her knees nearby my head and began yelling out, "Oh Lord, my brother, what you did to my brother." And with all the commotion that was going on, in terms of my elder sibling yelling and sobbing in tears, my grandfather and uncle, who was present in the house at the time, came in from the other side of the house to see what was going on. And there they saw me lying on the floor with my head propped up on the frame of the door. No sooner had my grandfather and uncle came to where we all were, my elder sibling then yelled at the gentleman who shot me and told him, "Don't just stand there, call the police." As soon as the gentleman got in contact with the 911 dispatcher, I overheard their conversation because he was still in the living area, which again is no more than 5 steps away from where I lied. When the dispatcher asked what was the nature of the call, his response was that he and I were playing with guns, and in the process of doing so, his gun accidentally went off and shot me. No sooner had the gentleman and the dispatcher ended their call, the gentleman then stepped outside, and within seconds of him stepping outside, my mother, who had just pulled in the driveway from work, entered the home, only to find me lying on the floor, suffering from a gunshot wound. Being that my mother's in the medical field, she immediately began asking questions to see if I was conscious. In fact, she called me by my nickname and said, "Man, this mama, baby. You know who this is? This mama." Then she began to hold up fingers and told me to nod my head to the amount of fingers that she was holding up. Once realizing that I was conscious, my mother then walked towards my feet, dropped down to her knees, and began yelling out, "Oh Lord, my boy, please protect my boy." Immediately after that outburst, my mother looked me in the eyes and said, "Son, I done prayed for you all your life. Ain't no more I can do for you. You gotta pray to God for yourself." The instant my mother said that, my mind immediately went back to when I was locked up at Millen's Evaluation Center, which is a facility for juveniles out in Columbia, South Carolina. When I was locked up, a pastor who spoke to myself and other inmates said, if any of you ever have a chance to ask God for forgiveness before you die, say the Our Father prayer, because within that one prayer, you're asking for forgiveness as well as other things. The moment that thought came to mind, I immediately began saying the Our Father prayer within myself. Then immediately after, I also said within myself, God, if you want me here, keep me here. If not, take me away. Now, I don't know whether or not I was thinking out loud, but it sounded like I heard someone say, maintain your breath until the paramedics come. When they come, relax. I got you. As soon as the paramedics arrived at the scene, of course, they began asking questions to see if I was conscious. And once realizing that I was conscious, they immediately began to try and locate the gunshot wound, but I had no luck. So one of the paramedics said to his colleague, let's cut his shirt off and take a closer look. But still no luck. Then that same paramedic asked his colleague, he said, can you tell where the blood is draining from? And in that moment, it was said that I had been shot in the left side of my neck because that's where they located the drainage. Once locating the gunshot wound, the paramedics brought in the stretcher, transferred me onto the stretcher, then transported and loaded me onto the EMS truck. Once being loaded onto the EMS truck, one of the paramedics placed an oxygen mask on my face, and in doing so, I twitched my nose several times to make sure it was positioned correctly. Then after that, I was out like a light. Later that night, however, I woke up only to find myself in the intensive care unit, lying in a bed that was literally turning from left to right like a doorknob. And as I began to observe my surroundings, I noticed that I was connected to an IV tube and a ventilator. The more I observed my surroundings, I noticed my mother who sat to the right of me and a great deal of my loved ones and peers who stood at the foot of my bed in awe, as if they couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Within moments of that observation, I was out like a light once again, because by that time, I had been sedated under medication. That following morning, however, is when I woke up for good. But when I woke up, I noticed that I couldn't speak as I tried to call for help. So instinctively, I began clicking like a bird to get someone's attention. The moment I began clicking like a bird, I heard one of the nurses ask her coworker, she said, what is that noise? Her coworker said, what noise? She said, that clicking noise. It sounds like a bird's clicking. Do you hear it? Coworker said, no, I don't hear it. The nurse said, see, there it goes again. Do you hear it now? Coworker said, yeah. Let's go see where it's coming from. So as the nurses were walking towards my room, I could have tell that they were getting closer by the sound of their conversation. So I continued to click louder and harder, indicating to the both of them that it's me calling for help. The moment the nurses stepped in front of my room, they said, oh, it's the new patient. Mr. Manigault, is that you? I nod my head, yeah. They said, we're sorry. We weren't expecting you to wake up anytime soon. I'm looking at them like, oh, all right. So as the nurses entered my room, one of them began checking my vital signs as the other nurse went back out to get my mother. When my mother entered the room, she began assisting the nurse who was checking my vital signs as the other nurse went back out a second time to get the doctor. When the doctor entered my room, he said the same thing as the nurses. He said, Mr. Manigault, you're awake. I nod my head, yeah. He said, we weren't expecting you to wake up anytime soon. I'm looking at him like, oh, all right. Then he asked, is it okay if I sit right here on the side of your bed? So I nod my head, yeah. Following that question, the doctor looked me in the eyes and said, Well, I have some good news and some bad news for you. Nod your head to which one you want to hear first. So I nod my head for the good news. He said, well, the good news is you still have your life. But the bad news is you will never be able to walk again. The moment the doctor broke that news to my mother and I, he then went into detail as to why I wouldn't be able to walk again. He said, when I got shot, the bullet went through the left side of my neck, traveled to the back of my neck, made a horseshoe-like turn at the back of my neck, and fractured my spinal cord at level C5, which left me paralyzed from the neck down instantly. So my mother asked, is the bullet still lodged in his neck, or did you guys remove it? In response, the doctor said, yes, ma'am. The bullet is still lodged in his neck, but it's now lodged on the right side of his neck in an area where it won't move. He said, and the reason we didn't surgically remove it is because there's a slight possibility that that procedure could cause more damages and we didn't want to chance it. Then the doctor went on to say, now you guys do have the option of having it removed if that's what you choose. But again, considering the likelihood of that procedure causing more damages, it's in your best interest to leave it be. So my mother and I agreed to leave it alone. Immediately after giving that detailed report, the doctor again looked me in the eyes and said, Mr. Manigault, I don't know who it is you're connected to, but whoever it is you're connected to, stay connected to him. He said because out of all of his years as a physician, he had never seen anyone survive an injury as severe as mine. In fact, he explained how he took care of patients with injuries that were less severe than mine, and they didn't survive. So he strongly suggested that whoever it is that I'm connected to stay connected to him. Now, I don't know where the strength of my vocals came from at that time when I said what I said, but in that moment, I boldly blurted out God. Because if it had not been for the Lord, I wouldn't be standing before you all that's under the sound of my voice, sharing this testimony. You know, February the 11th of this year marked the 23rd year since my injury. And what's mind-blowing about it is that when I first got injured, the doctor explained to my mother that the life expectancy of a newly spinal cord injured patient who has suffered an injury as severe as mine is in the range of 3 to 5 years. And here it is, 23 years later, I'm still alive. So when you hear me confess, if it had not been for the Lord, this is just one of the many reasons as to why I choose to do so. But the other reasons I choose to share my testimony with everyone, especially the youth, is so that you won't make the same poor decisions that I've made during my upbringing. If any of you paid attention to the testimony that I've just shared, you will notice that consequences came behind every poor decision that I made. For example, anytime I misbehaved in school, like I mentioned early on, I received in-school suspensions, out-school suspensions, detentions, as well as expulsions. And when I got home, I had to deal with the wrath of my parents. And we all know what the end result of that was, a behind cutting and punishment. Also, during my time in the streets, I got arrested and locked up twice on drug charges. When I caught my first charge, the authorities held me for 3 days. They released me into the custody of my parents, being that I was a juvenile. But prior to exiting the courtroom, the judge looked me in the eyes and said, young man, I don't like to see young people come in my courtroom for drugs. She said, in fact, I don't like to see young people come in my courtroom for anything. So if I catch you back in my courtroom again, I'm going to send you up the road. Fast forward a few months later, I caught my second charge, and the courts did exactly what they said they were going to do. So the first lesson I want to leave you with is for you all to be mindful of the decisions that you make. Because one poor decision could cost you your life, your freedom, or even worse, it can land you with a disability like me. The second lesson I want to leave you with is for you all to take heed to the wisdom that's given to you by your parents. I know oftentimes parents get on their kids' nerves because they constantly fussing at you and chopping down your throats, which is something that I've experienced throughout my upbringing. But what you must understand is that anytime your parents fuss at you, it's all out of love. They know what this world has to offer, and all they try to do is prevent you from heading down a path of destruction. In addition to that, I encourage you all to stay in school, get an education, and make something out of yourselves. Because without an education, you can only go about so far. But with an education, you can go beyond your imagination, especially with the opportunity that you've been afforded in this present time. The fourth lesson I want to leave you all with is for you all to be mindful of the company that you keep. Because, like my parents always say, everyone you think your friend isn't your friend. And unfortunately, I learned that the hard way. Because there was a gentleman whom I considered a friend, one whom I thought would never cross me out, ended up crossing me out. And because of his poor decision to do what he did, and my poor decision to associate myself with him, I'll be wheelchair bound for the rest of my life. And this is a reality that I have to live with. So I stress to you all to be mindful of the company that you keep. And to the parents, I leave you all with a message as well. And that message is for you all to simply take time out with your kids. You know, this is a technology generation we're dealing with. Although we have a lot of our youth outdoors, we also have a lot of our youth indoors. So what you must do is make them come inside. Put those electronics down sometimes. See how they did was in school. See how they did when at work. See what career path they want to take once graduating high school. And I say this because I grew up with a generation of parents who would always say, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to parent you. And don't get me wrong, I get it. But it come a point in time where you have to build a relationship, not a friendship, but a relationship with your kids in order that they may feel comfortable to come talk to you about anything. Because if they don't feel comfortable to come talk to you, they're going to go talk to someone else. And that someone else may lead them down many paths that we all are trying to prevent them from going down. Now, by no means am I saying you taking time out with your kids is going to bring the issues that we're having with today's youth to a screeching halt, but it's a start towards a positive change. Now, to the parents who are taking time out with their kids and who do have that relationship with them, and your child or children still choose to stray, then you're not the problem. It's your child or children. And unfortunately, they may have to learn the hard way if they don't get it together. But whatever you do, don't give up on them. Aside from that, I'll leave you all with this. We all have to put God first and keep Him first. Pray every day. Read the Bible every chance we get and apply God's words to our daily lives. Because without God, we can only do about so much. But with God, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Again, I'm Wendell Manigault, and I appreciate your time.
I have heard Wendell's testimony so many times, and every time I hear it, it just resonates with me. You know, we are always trying to come to an answer of why gun violence is just so bad in our neighborhoods. And as a matter of fact, I spoke with someone today who lives in, I think it's Fulton County, Atlanta, who told me that within a 48-hour period, they had 49 people shot. A lot of retaliation, a lot of families going back and forth, and it's happening in our communities. And you know, when we did the registration for this through our website, and we had a couple people who asked the question, what do we do? What can we do to curb the violence that's in our communities? I don't feel that we have to look for a national answer, a state answer. I think the answer really lies within our community. And I thought about some of the questions that were asked about what we can do. And basically, Wendell has summed up so much of it already. So much of it already. Now, one of the questions that came to us on our website was, "What can I do to make a difference?" We had an individual to ask that question. Wendell, what would you say a young lady asked that question? What can she do to make a difference? What would you say is something that one individual can do to make a difference? Because a lot of time it's not the masses, it's not all of us, but what can one person do to make a difference?
Well, we have a lot of community events and community meetings that the public is welcome to attend. You can start off by attending those events and meetings. And when you attend those events and meetings, you can connect with community leaders that actually has boots to the ground and actually putting in work to curb the violence within our community. And then you also must be a willing vessel to dedicate yourself and aid these community leaders and putting in that work to curb the violence within our communities.
Very good. And one thing that I have really learned through being a part of Voices of Black Mothers United is that we have a lot of events and different things that are going on in our community, but instead of just events, we have to build programs that will sustain over time, not just having an event and that's the end of it. And so that's why with reclaiming our youth services, we have started that piece to mentor in the schools. Last year before last, we did Lake Marion High School and Ellery Elementary School. And I continue to reach out to those parents, reach out to those students to try to bring some continuity to what we mentored them on during that time. Now, this past school year, we were fortunate enough to um, go into the alternative school for Orangeburg County, which is the Refocus Academy, which is for the high school students who are at the alternative um, school, and then the Star Center, which is for the middle school. And so we mentor. This year, we want to reach back out to the students that we mentored last year, along with getting a new group. So we're trying to build a program, not just events, but a program that we can continue, not just hit and miss, but to work with our students continuously. And not only just the mentoring piece, but Wendell had a very, very valid point with our parents. And I ask you to please share this live when we get off, because he had a very valid point. This generation is very different. This generation is very different. He said parents need to take time with their kids. And I truly agree with that, because right now it is so easy to just give your child a phone or a tablet or an iPad, and then they're away. But then we need to monitor these things, monitor what they're listening to, monitor to who they may be talking to online. And all of that, like he said, really helps to form a relationship that your child will feel comfortable coming to you and telling you if something's going on at school. Somebody has, like Wendell mentioned about the selling of drugs, you know, that your child will feel comfortable enough to come to you and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what has presented itself to me. And, I need help with this. This generation is not like because, when we grew up, whatever our parents told us, we did. What they said not to do, you had to really, really be out there not to do it. But this generation is totally different because everything is basically microwave. Everything is right there. It's right there, and it's really fast. So another question that came to us, Wendell, was how much, you said that you know the individual, he was a friend. How much is forgiveness a part of your journey for this? I mean, I am assuming that friend is fine and he's living his life. And then the situation that you were left in, how does forgiveness play a part in your journey?
Forgiveness is a major part in my journey. Um, in order for one to evolve into the person who God has created him and ordained him to be, you must let go of what is holding you captive, right?
Yes,
So, and remember, forgiveness is not for the person who has
that's right.
wronged you.
That's the
Forgiveness is for you to release yourself from that which is holding you bondage, right?
exact. That's
And
correct.
and like and like I always say, um, forgiveness is the key that will unlock the doors to your destiny.
Yeah.
So as hard as it may be for one to forgive, forgiveness play a major role in terms of you being able to progress in life and move forward and doing whatever it is that God has assigned you to do.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Reclaiming our youth services, we have a support group for mothers who have lost children to violence, and it's called Healing Heart Support. And we meet once a month, and that was really our topic this past month, forgiveness. But we centered it around just a little differently, because so many of us who have lost children to violence, we have to forgive ourselves because we've lost our child. We say what we should have done, what we shouldn't have done. If only I'd done this. So forgiveness is just such a large spectrum. We as moms have to forgive ourselves, and like you said, you had to forgive that individual. And forgiveness is that type of forgiveness is not saying that it's okay what you did to me. It's not saying that, but you're forgiving so that you can set yourself free. So it's good that you've been able to forgive. Now, Wendell, I have another question here, and this is one that I have really, it really resonated with me from the time I first heard your testimony. You told me that you never pressed charges. You never pressed charges, and you said after you blacked out, when you woke up, this individual was standing over you, and then he communicated to the officers that y'all were playing with guns, which I don't feel was accurate. So tell us, why didn't you press charges?
To put it all in a nutshell, I was in the streets. I was in the streets, so like I mentioned in my testimony, I sold drugs, and we all know that it's a code to the streets. Whenever you got an issue, with anyone in the streets, you don't run to law enforcement for it. Either you let it slide or you retaliate, and I chose to let it slide.
So you chose
Just
you chose to let it slide.
yes, man.
Did the officers come to you and ask you, question you about it or ask you about pressing charges?
Yes, man. Well, they came to my mother first when I was still in intensive care unit. And they asked my mother what was it that she wanted to do, and my mother said, "Well, I wasn't there. I don't know what transpired. So whenever my son get out, the hospital, and he is able to speak for himself, you guys can go speak to him, and whatever he chooses to do, then that's what we'll do." So when I came out of the hospital, when the detectives came to the house, they told me his side of the story. I told them my side of the story, and they asked whether or not I wanted to press charges, and I told them no.
So do you see this as you were still honoring the street code?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. And really, I guess your mom really, she wasn't there, so it wasn't anything that she could do for you to to make you want to press charges.
Right. I believe she was looking at it from the perspective that the gentleman and I were friends.
Yes.
She was looking at it from that perspective. So that's really why, she didn't, take action in terms of pressing charges. So,
Got
like she said, she wasn't present, so she really didn't know what happened.
exactly.
So she made the right decision.
You know, the individual that shot my son, his brother shot my nephew, and my nephew is also in a wheelchair, and he's a paraplegic, so I think he has a little more movement of his upper body than you do. And I told him a couple months ago about this live that we were going to do, and it's amazing because he says how every day is a challenge. Every day for the rest of his life is a challenge. And when I look at you, Wendell, I see that yours is even more of a challenge. So I want you to tell us what has been the hardest part of you surviving gun violence. Tell us about the physical, the mental, and the emotional. When you get up every day, tell us, because I really want our young people, I want them to see and hear what can happen if they live this type of life. And I ask all of you who are here, when we get off of here, share this with a young person that you love and that you care for. So many of our young people are dying to gun violence, but you may just live. So I want Wendell just to share with us when he gets up in the morning. And I am giving you permission on this live tonight to be as raw as you want to be. What's it like physically, mentally, emotionally? I know your mom is there and she drives you everywhere. She's right by your side. But just tell us what it's like, because we're doing all of this to save our young people and to help build strong communities. So, Wendell, answer that question for me. What is the hardest part about surviving gun violence? What has been the hardest part?
Maintaining my sanity. Um, you gotta understand, I went from being 100% independent to being 100% total dependent, having to depend on others to assist me with whatever care that I need. I'm in a position where, if I get an itch on my head, my nose, or even my chin, I'm unable to independently scratch that itch due to my physical disability. If I have to use the restroom, being it urinating or having a bowel movement, I'm unable to independently take myself to the restroom. So I have to depend on others to assist me with that. And that alone with that within itself is a challenge because you're in a vulnerable state and you're in a position where people have to deal with you at your lowest point. And as a man, I'm 39 years of age. You know, um, being taken care of as if I'm an infant all over again. So that within itself, even from a physical standpoint, is a tough challenge for me.
Yes.
You understand? I can't get up and go open that refrigerator door whenever I want. My lack of limitations won't allow me to. If I want to get up and go to Walmart, just out the blue, I'm unable to do that due to lack of limitations. You understand? So it's many different things that's challenging for me. That has been challenging from day one, and it's still challenging. But through it all, man, I just keep pushing. I just keep pushing. And like I said, when I pray sometimes and I don't know what to say to God, I ask God. I say, God, please help me keep my sanity.
Yes.
Because this is a lot to deal with.
I can
But
understand. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
And when you say keep your sanity, so many times when I post on things on social media, or even when I speak at different speaking engagements, I always say that God kept me, because I understand what you're saying, but from a different standpoint. With losing not one son, but both of my sons to gun violence, I really thought at one point that I was losing my mind. And I can remember one night when I was just tossing and turning, and I really feel that was a turning point for me, Wendell. It was a turning point. And that night, I asked God, if you just keep my mind, I will serve and I will help. And that's why I do what I do. And I do it all without being paid, without anything, because God truly kept me. And I think in your story, your situation, God kept you. So it's for a reason. We have to continue to reach out into the community. We have to continue sharing stories, answering tough questions in order to save our youth. So I think that that is very, very powerful. Now, I want to, and we're going to stop in just a little, but you said when you went to, I guess it's DJJ, Department of Juvenile Justice, you said there was a minister there, and he told you if you ever got to the point where you didn't know what to do or you got in a bad situation, you said he told you to say the Our Father's Prayer.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am. Go ahead.
so, what is one other thing that you wish somebody had told you, somebody would have said to you when you were younger, that might have helped you not to get caught up into the lifestyle that you were in? And I know you said your mom and dad, they took you to church, they taught you the right thing, and I mean your mom even went to the point of taking you to these neighborhoods and showing you what could happen if you continue that lifestyle. What do you think, now that you're 39, you're 23 years in this, that someone could have said to you that may have kept you from that lifestyle? Is there anything that you think could have been said?
Well, my support system said everything that they were supposed to say. They
Okay.
said everything that they were supposed to say. I just chose not to take heed. I had the teaching. The teaching was there from my parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, um, longtime family, friends, church members. I really had that village. I even had dope fiends, look at me and say, "Hey, this you weren't supposed to be doing this." You understand? So the
Yeah.
teaching was there. They said everything that was supposed to be said. I just didn't take heed. I take full accountability for everything that transpired in my life because I was taught the right way. I was raised to do the right thing. I chose to do the opposite of what I was taught.
Um, Valid point. That's truly amazing. And I guess it's kind of like, I was raised in Monk's Corner, South Carolina, and my mom would say, don't have a hard head. And what that is saying is to listen. And that's what I've told my children, I tell my grands, just listen. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just listen. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with us, Wendell, as parting thoughts? I thank you so much for being my first guest. I want you to know that I've been nervous, everybody, about doing this. Wendell and I spoke earlier today, and I was like, okay, we can do this, we can do this. But I really feel if everyone shares it, and this video will live in social media. It's going to be in YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. Please, if there's any young person that you love, that you care about, families, please share it so that Wendell's testimony does not go in vain. So, Wendell, do you have any final words that you would like to share with us?
Again, put God first. Put God first. Without God, we can do nothing. For a long time now, we all have gotten away from God. We all have gotten away from our roots, what we were taught as kids, and we got to get back to that. Um, take heed. to the wisdom that has been spoken into your ears on this evening. Um, I have lived experience, of what it's like to be in the streets. Lived experience of what it's like to be a victim of gun violence and also a spinal cord injured patient. I'm in a position you don't want to be in. God spared my life and placed me on display for today's generation. And I don't want you to think that it's not good to look at me and use me as an example. Use me as an example of what not to do. Stay
Yeah.
away from the wrong crowd. Stay away from drugs. Stay away from guns. Stay away from violence. Take heed to the wisdom that's given to you by your parents, and I guarantee you it'll pay off in the long haul.
So, Wendell, if somebody would like to speak with you and they message me or whatever, would it be okay for me to share your information? Because I really want to drive this point home, and maybe some young people really need to talk to you. Would
Yeah,
that be okay with you?
just give them my social media handles. Let them y'all can message me, and
Very.
then we I'll take it from there.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Well, I just want to thank you because we really heard a powerful story of life after the trigger and what it really looks like. You look at Wendell, and like he said he is on display for all of us. This is what happens if you live, if you don't die, but this is what could possibly happen if you're a victim of gun violence. So thank you so much, Wendell. I just appreciate you. Stay online. Don't go off, okay?
All
But thank
right, I
you so
got
much.
you.
And I would also like to say for parents, please have those tough conversations with your children. I think Wendell said it best, parenting, and not being their friend. And with this generation, have those tough conversations with your children. Let them know that you're there for them and you have to listen. Like I said before, when we were growing up, our parents just told us what to do. It was just flat, no question. But this generation is different. We have to respect that. Um, but we have to listen and communicate and form a relationship with our children. So I would like to thank him. And I want you to know that we are planning more community connects. I'm really excited because we're going to have somebody who's also going to come on later on the year and who's going to talk to us about what the rap music is doing to our children. That's a part of what makes them want to, as they say, pew pew, shoot somebody and all of that. That all has a part to do with it. So we're just going to continue working towards this. If you have any ideas, an idea of a speaker, we don't have all the answers, but we're working to find some answers. Message me on Facebook. My phone number, it is just out there. I put it on all of my promotional items. You can text me, call me, 843-830-3541. Message me or call me if you have any ideas of someone who may have a story who could help our young people. Reach out to me. um, I'm willing to go ahead and contact that person, contact you, and let's set it up. Let's do it. Let's go live. Let's try to reach the masses. So, also, I would like you to know exactly what all Reclaiming Our Youth Services is doing in the community. We're about a year and a half strong, and I really give God thanks because we have really done a lot in a short time. Our website is www.reclaimingouryouthservices.com, and we are looking to have you to partner with us. So if you go to the website, reclaimingouryouthservices.com/partner, and it'll take you to the area where if you would like to partner with us, we would love for you to do so. In this time right now, we've had so many budget cuts and funding has been cut in so many ways. And so if you're able to donate, we really would appreciate it. As a matter of fact, I received a grant in April for National Crime Victim Rights Week. And that was right around the time when all the cuts were done at the federal level. This was a reimbursable grant, and so I spent all of the money, and we have not been reimbursed because of the budget cuts. So, I do a whole lot of the work myself, because I want the message to get out there. So, if you would go to our website and partner with us. I would also like you to know that, again, this year we're going to be mentoring at the Transformation Academy, which is which is the Refocus Academy and the Star Center. We'll be mentoring that then again, and I'm so excited. Hopefully, we'll be able to touch some lives and some families through that. We continue to hold our Healing Hearts support group. It's once a month, and we are starting a Healing Hearts book club. And Wendell talked about forgiveness. So the book that we are going to be reading first in this support group is Forgiving What You Can't Forget. And I think that is really what Wendell has done. He will never forget what he's went through, but being able to forgive yourself and forgiving that individual for you, not necessarily for that person, but for you. So I'm really excited about where our Live in Peace Community Connect Lives is going to take us. I just trust God that we're going to build a powerful platform that's going to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. So again, I said, please share this video. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and also YouTube. Share it with those that you love. Share it on your page, and hopefully we'll be able to make a difference in individuals' lives. So now, for those of you who pre-registered, that's going to the website and register, we're going to give away 2 virtual Amazon gift cards for $25. We said if you registered, we would be giving you a gift. So we will be selecting those people now. And when you registered on the website, we have your information, and those cards will be sent to you virtually. So let's see. And you still have to be online in order to win. Okay. So let's see. We came up with Lavessa T. Is Lavessa still here? Is Lavessa still online? Okay, let's go to the next one. Remember, you got to stay online to the end in order to get the gift, and we will do this at each live. Latasha F. Is Latasha still here? Please indicate in the chat. Latasha is gone too. Y'all are leaving too early. All right, let's spin it again. Okay, Stephanie Abraham. Is Stephanie still here? Okay, if y'all know any of these people, you need to tell them that they would have got a gift if they stayed online, okay? Stephanie's not here? All right, let's go again. I know we still got 11 people here, so we got to allow somebody. D. Dantzler. Okay, let's try it again. It'll be something if those who pre-registered are not here, but other guests are here. So let's try it again. Sarah S. Let's hit it. Kimberly K. No, that's Devin G. Okay, let's give it one more try, Miss Kimberly. Oh, Nova W. No, let's hit it again. Dallas. Okay, Karen. I think Karen is here. Okay, someone just messaged me. I am here. Let's see. Okay, Doris Dantzler is here. I think she's having problems with her computer. And Karen Middleton is here. Very good. And thank you, Miss Dantzler, for messaging me. Okay, so we do have two winners, Doris Dantzler and Karen Middleton. So we'll be getting that virtual card to you tonight. And again, I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. Um, give us some feedback. Inbox me. Give me some feedback on the live, how you feel it went, what we can do different, what we can do to make it better. And we will be coming to you again. So, and again, hats off to Wendell Manigault for sharing his testimony. And I want you to know that what you're doing is a good thing. May God bless and keep you always. Bye bye from Reclaiming Our Youth Services.